Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in the last session we have completed regarding determination of empirical as well as molecular formula, right? So what is empirical formula? It is the formula of a compound which gives the simplest whole number ratio of constituent atoms present in a molecule. Well, so on the other hand, molecular formula is nothing but it is the formula of a compound. It gives a actual ratio of constituent atoms present in a molecule. Well, and even we have considered some numericals, important numericals on determining empirical as well as molecular formula. Right now in this session I'm going to deal with the one more important concept of the chapter, okay, which is necessary, very much necessary to know for entrance examination point of view, right? So the one more important concept is the limiting reagent. So we know whenever a chemical reaction takes place, what are all present in a chemical reaction? Yes, a chemical reaction includes reactants, okay, reactant or reactants, okay, reactants, they react with what? They react with the reagent, okay, they react with reagent to give product or products in general. So reactant react with the reagent to give product, or I can say reactants get converted into products. In generally what I can say, reactants are get converted into product under certain specified conditions. Now here limiting reagent, what is the meaning here? Is limiting reagent is nothing but is one of the reactant. Okay, first thing to be considered, a limiting reagent means yes, it is one of a reactant. One of a reactant. What happens? That reactant limits means which going to limit the reaction. What it limits? It limits the reaction path, or I can say reaction procedure. Therefore, it is named as a limiting reagent. Well, we'll understand it better. So, if I consider limiting reagents, yes. What is the question here? What is limiting reagent? Another limiting reagent andre yes is one of the reactant. So the reactant which is totally consumed in a reaction. So what is limiting reagent? In one way we can say the reactant which is totally consumed in a reaction. During a reaction what happens? Reactants concentration of reactant. If we consider, okay, concentration versus reaction coordinate, okay, if you plot a graph of concentration versus reactant coordinate, the concentration of reactant say maximum at a time 0, at 0th time concentration of reactant will be maximum. With respect to time what happens? Concentration of reactant goes on decreases. Well, on the other hand, what about product? Concentration of product goes on increases, okay, concentration of reactant decreases while that of product goes on increases. Now here, which means what happens? Reactant will be consumed during a reaction, right? So if one of the reactant is totally consumed, then such a reactant is called a limiting reagent. So in simple way, how we can define the limiting reagent? The reactant which is totally consumed, okay, totally consumed in a reaction is called a limiting reagent. Well, the reactant which is another way to, okay, define the limiting reagent is the reactant which is present in the lesser amount get consumed after some time. So if the quantity is available less, what happens? Such a reactant will be consumed first, then it act as a limiting reagent. So the reactant which is present in lesser amount gets consumed after some time, and after that no further reaction takes place whatever the amount of other reactant is. What happens? Say there are two reactants A and B, okay, A and B, they react to give C is a product. Now here two reactants, I want to specify which is limiting reagent. Out of these two, I want to specify which one is a limiting reagent. Is it A or B? So what is the thing I have to consider? I have to consider at the end of a reaction. At the end of a reaction, I have to check the concentration of A and B, or I can say quantity of A and B. If A is consumed completely, say if a reactant A is consumed completely, then A acts as a limiting reagent. If B is consumed completely, then B is act as a limiting reagent. So in general, how we are saying, the reactant which is totally consumed in a reaction is called a limiting reagent. You got it? So if a reactant, any of the reactant which is consumed completely, then it is called a limiting reagent. Then you might have get a question in your mind that, say, as per the example specified, I said A, if A is consumed completely, then called A is a limiting reagent. If B is totally consumed, then B act as a limiting reagent. Yes, we have a possibility, right? If A and B consumed totally, if A consumed, then A act as a limiting reagent. Okay. Second case, if B is consumed completely, then B act as a limiting reagent. Now possibilities we are specifying. If A and B both are consumed, okay, so at the end of a reaction there is no A and B remained at all, means A and B consumed totally, then in such case there is no limiting reagent. If all the reactants are consumed totally, then there is no case of limiting reagent. You solved your doubt? Yes. Then say, in first possibility I will say, if A is consumed completely, okay, if A is consumed completely, then A act as a what? Limiting reagent. What about B at this case? If A is consumed completely means B remains in excess. Yes or no? B remains excess. Therefore, it is called, B is called as a excess reagent. So, say, I'll just consider here, if A consumed completely, then A act as a limiting reagent. What is another reactant? I said B. B remains in excess, okay, or part of the B remains unreacted. Therefore, B is considered as a excess reagent. Excess reagent. Okay. Yes. Anyway, we are concentrating on what concept? Limiting reagent. Well, so I just repeat the definition for limiting reagent. What it is? The reactant which is totally consumed in a reaction is called a limiting reagent. So, and usually what we say, the reactant which is present lesser in amount get consumed after some time and no further reaction takes place, whatever the quantity, or I can say amount of other reactant. Therefore, such a reactant which is present in less quantity is referred as a limiting reagent. Okay. Yes. Then say, coming to some numerical so that you can understand better the concept of a limiting reagent. Well, the first one, how much magnesium sulfide can be obtained? Okay, what is the problem here? How much magnesium sulfide, okay, magnesium sulfide can be obtained from each 2 gram of magnesium and sulfur by the reaction Mg plus S gives rise to Mgs, which is limiting reagent, and calculate the amount of one of the reactant which remains unreacted, which means we have to calculate amount of reactant unreacted. So we have to calculate the excess reagent here, amount of excess reagent. Well, what is the reaction? They said Mg plus S gives rise to Mgs, magnesium sulfide, and even they specified quantity, 2 gram of magnesium and 2 gram of sulfur they are reacting. We have to find out which is limiting reagent and which is excess reagent. Well, so when you look at the solution here, so first of all, each of the masses are expressed in moles. Well, so first we consider 2 gram of magnesium, which means weight divided by its molecular mass. So 2 divided by 24 actually, so 24.3. How much it is? It is 0.0824 mole. Alright, it is the number of moles of magnesium. Whatever the weight is given, we are expressing in terms of moles. That's it. So what is the number of moles of magnesium? It is the 0.0824 moles. Then similarly 2 gram of sulfur they said. How we are going to express? Again weight divided by its atomic mass. So 2 divided by, for sulfur, 32.1. Then what it is, 0.0624 moles of sulfur. So whatever the weight, those weights are expressed in terms of number of moles. So 0.0824 moles of magnesium is made to react with 0.0624 moles of a sulfur. You got it? Yes. What is done here? The weights, whatever the given weights, are converted into number of moles. Right? Now, say limiting reagent is sulfur. On what basis we specified this? Say, look at the reaction now. Okay, say Mg plus S gives rise to MgS, magnesium sulfide. So while dealing with limiting and excess reagent, again remember, one should have what? One should have a balanced chemical equation. So it is very necessary. So to deal with limiting and excess reagent, one should be able to have a balanced chemical equation. Okay, there must be a balanced chemical equation, then only it is possible to specify limiting and excess reagent, or else not. Well, whatever the given equation, Mg plus S gives rise to Mgs. Is it balanced or not? Yes, balanced. It is a balanced equation. On what basis we are saying? The number of moles must be equal on either side of a equation. That's so called balanced chemical equation, right? So what is the mole ratio? 1 mole. 1 mole of magnesium react with 1 mole of sulfur. So 1:1, right? So here 1:1 is the ratio. Means 1 mole of magnesium requires 1 mole of sulfur. Means I can say here 0.0824 mole of magnesium requires how much sulfur? Obviously 0.0824 gram of sulfur, mole of sulfur, right? Equal 1:1 is the ratio. Therefore, if 0.0824 moles of magnesium means 0.0824 mole of sulfur is required. What it is? It is required. But how much sulfur is available? 0.0624 moles. Yes or no? So here, now what I can say? Sulfur is available less than, just highlighting this word, less than required. Therefore, all sulfur consumes, magnesium remains in excess. Sulfur is reacted completely, therefore it acts as a limiting reagent. And what about magnesium? Part of the magnesium remains unreacted, therefore magnesium acts as a excess reagent. You got it? Yes. So what we said here, say mass of magnesium sulfide formed, if I consider, say 0.0 1:1 is the right. If 0.0624 moles of sulfur reacts with 0.0624 moles of magnesium, gives 0.0624 moles of magnesium sulfide. Then for magnesium sulfide, what is the molecular mass? 56.4. So number of moles into its a molecular mass. So how much? It is 3.52 gram of magnesium sulfide is formed. So, and one more important thing here to be remembered is formation of product. Okay, formation of product depends on which quantity? It depends on, depends on which reagent? Limiting reagent. Please remember, formation, that is quantity of product formed, it always depends on the limiting reagent, right? Okay. Therefore, we have taken here sulfur atomic mass. That is the number of moles of sulfur is considered, right? Then number of moles of magnesium left unreacted. So how we are going to calculate number of moles of magnesium unreacted? What is the number of moles of magnesium? 0.0824 minus, out of which how much will be reacted? 0.0624. That is, I will write the equation again. Magnesium plus sulfur gives rise to magnesium sulfide, 1:1. So if sulfur how much? 0.0624 is available. okay, mole. Therefore, out of 0.0824 mole, how much reacted? Only 0.0624 mole of magnesium will be reacted. So then how many moles of magnesium left? It is the 0.02 moles of magnesium left unreacted. Then number of moles can be converted into mass. Yes, we know how. The number of moles into its atomic mass, right? Number of moles of magnesium into molar mass of a, that is atomic mass of a magnesium. So 0.02 into 24.3, that is how much magnesium left unreacted? It is the 0.486 gram of magnesium left unreacted. Okay, so yes, it's regarding the first numerical. You got it? Well, we move on to the next one. So 50 kg of nitrogen, so 50 kg of nitrogen and 10 kg of hydrogen are mixed to produce ammonia. So means what they are specifying, it is regarding formation of ammonia. Then we have to think of chemical equation for formation of ammonia. What is that? Na2 plus 3H2 gives rise to 2NH3 is a balanced chemical equation, and mole ratio 1:3:2. Okay, yes. So based on this sentence we can arrive at this data. So 50 kg of nitrogen and 10 kg of hydrogen are mixed to produce ammonia, means formation of ammonia. So we have written balanced chemical equation and mole ratio. Well, further calculate the ammonia formed. If these much quantity of reactants are mixed, we have to calculate the amount of ammonia formed. How much ammonia produced we have to calculate. So 50 kg of nitrogen is made to mix it with 10 kg of a hydrogen. So we have to find out how much ammonia produced, and further identify the limiting reagent in the production of ammonia in this situation. So at this condition we have to find out which one act as a limiting reagent. Well, and before going for formation of product, it depends on what? It depends on the limiting reagent, right? Well, right now we don't know which one act as a limiting reagent. Is it nitrogen or hydrogen? Yes. First we have to find out which one act as a limiting reagent. Then we have to go for quantity of ammonia produced. Well, so if we consider the solution, it's a balanced chemical equation. As I said, Na2 plus 3H2 gives rise to 2NH3. Okay, then 1 mole of nitrogen combines with 3 moles of hydrogen gives 2 moles of ammonia. Is the mole ratio 1:3:2. Well, now number of moles. So 50 kg number of moles of nitrogen we have to find out, right? Whatever the weight given, it must be converted into number of moles. How? Weight divided by its molecular mass, right? As Na2 is a molecule. Say weight divided by molecular mass. 50 kg they said, it must be converted into grams. So 50 into 1000 into 1 divided by how much? 28. It is the molecular mass of nitrogen. So on simplification, how much we get? It is the 17.86 into 10 raised to 2 mole. Okay, whatever the 50 kg of nitrogen is nothing but how many moles? 17.86 into 10 raised to 2 mole. That weight is converted into number of moles. Similarly, if you consider number of moles of hydrogen, how much they say? 10 kg, right? 10 kg of hydrogen. So yes, 10 into 1000 divided by 2.016. 10 into 1000 divided by 2.016. It is the molecular mass of hydrogen. So on simplification, what is the number of moles of hydrogen? It is the 4.96 into 10 raised to 3. 4.96 into 10 raised to 3 moles. So 10 kg of hydrogen is nothing but 4.96 into 10 raised to 3 moles. So what we have done, the given weights are converted into number of moles, right? Well, now coming to the, according to the balanced chemical equation, we know 1 mole of nitrogen reacts with what? 1 mole of nitrogen reacts with 3 moles of hydrogen. So 1:3. Say, what is the equation I said? N2 plus 3H2 gives rise to 2NH3. It's a balanced equation. So 1:3:2. Okay, ratio. So 1 mole of nitrogen reacts with 3 moles of hydrogen. Now we know number of moles of nitrogen, that is how much? 17.86 into 10 raised to 2 moles of nitrogen react with how many moles of hydrogen? That is, it is number of moles of hydrogen required. Say X. What is X here? Number of moles of H2 required, number of moles of hydrogen required, right? So that is, we are just cross multiplying. If you cross multiply 17.86, okay, into 3, it will be 5.36 into 10 raised to 3 mole. It is H2 required, okay, for 17.86 into 10 raised to 2 moles of nitrogen. How much hydrogen required? 5.36 into 10 raised to 3 moles of hydrogen required. Well, now what about number of moles of hydrogen? We already know it is 4.96 into 10 raised to 3 mole. So it is available. So it is available 4.96 into 10 raised to 3 mole, required 5.36 into 10 raised to. So now on comparison of these two values, I can say hydrogen is available less than required. Required is high but available is less. Then what I can say? All hydrogen will be consumed during a reaction. Therefore, H2 dihydrogen act as a limiting reagent. So one answer we got here out of N2 and H2. So H2 act as a limiting reagent. Now, well, coming to the next problem. Say 20 gram of sulfur on burning, means again here thermal decomposition of sulfur there, or you can say combustion of sulfur they are specifying. So 20 gram of sulfur on burning in air produces 11.2 liters of sulfur dioxide gas at STP. So what they are saying, when 20 gram of sulfur is burnt in air, is going to produce 11.2 liters of sulfur dioxide at STP. So what they are asking, the percentage of unreacted sulfur is, we have to find out the percentage of unreacted sulfur. Okay, yes. So first we look at the options, then we go for solutions. The first one 80%, second 20%, third option 60%, and the fourth option 40%. So what they are saying, 20 gram of sulfur is burning on air, means which is the another reactant during combustion, that is oxygen, right? So yes, sulfur is the one reactant. Okay, say S plus O2 gives rise to SO2. So first thing, we have to get a balanced chemical equation. So S plus O2 gives rise to SO2. Is it a balanced one? Yes, it is a balanced one. Now look for mole ratio. So 1 mole of sulfur reacts with 1 mole of O2 gives 1 mole of SO2. Now we have to relate number of moles of sulfur with what? Volume of sulfur dioxide produced. So what is the ratio here? 1 mole of sulfur produces 1 mole of sulfur dioxide, which means how much? 22.4 liters of SO2. At what condition? At STP. If 1 mole of sulfur, okay, if you undergo combustion in air, produces 22.4 liters of sulfur dioxide at STP. So is the relation. Okay, yes. so S plus O2 SO2 is a balanced equation. Then sulfur, what is the atomic mass? It is a 32. So 1 mole of sulfur produces 22.4 liters of sulfur dioxide, means 32 gram of sulfur produces 22.4 liters of sulfur dioxide. Okay, yes. How much sulfur dioxide produced here? 11.2 liter produced, they are saying, which means we have to consider the reverse of this. So 22.4 liters of sulfur dioxide produced by how much? 32 gram of sulfur. 22.4 liters of sulfur dioxide is produced by 32 gram of sulfur. Say how much sulfur dioxide produced here? 11.2 liters. 11.2 liter of sulfur dioxide produced by how much sulfur? So we are calculating here quantity of sulfur reacted. Quantity of sulfur reacted is equal to 11.2 into 32 divided by 22.4. So 11.2 1 ja 11.2 2 ja. Then what is the quantity of sulfur reacted here? 16 gram. Okay, so out of 20 gram, total 20 gram. So out of 20 gram, 16 gram of sulfur is get reacted and produces 11.2 liters of sulfur dioxide. Then what is the quantity of sulfur unreacted? So sulfur reacted we got. What about sulfur unreacted? Sulfur unreacted. Unreacted means how much sulfur is there? They have given 20 gram minus how much reacted? 16 gram reacted. So what is the remaining? 4 gram of sulfur remains unreacted. Okay, so 4 gram of sulfur, we got the quantity here, but it must be expressed in terms of what? Percentage. What they are asking here? The percentage of unreacted sulfur they are asking, not the quantity. Quantity means 4 gram. It must be expressed in terms of percentage. Okay, so percentage means, say percentage of sulfur unreacted is equal to 4 quantity of sulfur unreacted divided by total mass. How much? 20 gram into 100. So 21 ja 25 ja. Okay, 4 5 ja how much? 20%. So 4 gram of sulfur remains unreacted, or in terms of percentage how much? It is the 20% of sulfur remains unreacted. So what is the answer here? So answer is 16 gram, or I can say 20%. Okay, 16 gram is reacted, 4 is unreacted. So in terms of percentage, it is 20%. Well, the unreacted sulfur, what we said? 20 minus 16. Total sulfur 20 gram, out of which 16 is reacted. So unreacted will be 4 gram. So percentage of unreacted sulfur, 4 divided by 20 into 100, that is 20%. Okay, yes. Next one, liquid benzene burns in oxygen. Okay, liquid benzene C6H6. Okay, C6H6, a liquid benzene which burns in oxygen means O2. Okay, oxygen according to the equation. So they have given equation here. Note. So how much? So 2 C6H6 plus 15 O2. 15 O2 gives rise to 12 CO2 plus 6 H2. As I said here, benzene is also one of the hydrocarbon. So combustion of hydrocarbon always produces two compounds. As I mentioned earlier, remember, it's carbon dioxide and water. So here liquid benzene burns in oxygen according to this equation. So it is a balanced one. 2 C6H6 plus 15 O2 gives rise to 12 CO2 plus 6 H2O. Okay, yes. How many liters of oxygen is required for complete combustion of 39 gram of liquid benzene? So here they are specifying how many liters of oxygen, required. We have to find out. For what? For the combustion of 39 gram of benzene, which means we have to relate first number of moles. Okay, number of moles of benzene with the number of moles of a oxygen from balanced chemical equation, right? Yes. So options 11.2, second 22.4, third 42, and fourth one 84. Yes, we consider the solutions. So we know the equation, right? What is the relation here? 2:15. 2 moles of benzene reacts with 15 moles of oxygen. So answer is fourth one 84. Yes, we consider how we arrived at that answer. Say 78 gram, as I said, 2 moles of benzene C6H6 produces 15 mole of O2. 2 moles of benzene requires how much? Or they react with 15 moles of oxygen. See here, 2 into whatever the things are written, 78 gram of benzene quantity mass. 2 into 78 gram of benzene, 2 into 78 gram of benzene reacts with 15 mole in terms of volume, 15 into 22.4 liters of oxygen. So we got quantity, mass and volume relation between benzene and oxygen, right? Is the standard relation. Say 2 into 78 gram of benzene reacts with what? 15 into 22.4 liters of oxygen. How much benzene they are saying? 39 gram of benzene reacts with how much oxygen? So cross multiplication. So 15 into 22.4 into 39 divided by 2 into 78. So if we simplify it, we get 84 liters. So it is the quantity of oxygen required to react 39 gram of liquid benzene. Okay, yes. The next one, the weight of KMnO4 required to completely oxidize 0.25 moles of ferrous sulfate in an acid medium is, okay, first option 5.8, second option 1.5, third option 7.9, and the fourth one 0.79. Say we know the equation 2 KMnO4 plus 10 FeSO4 plus 8 H2SO4 gives rise to 5 Fe2SO4 taken twice, K2SO4, 2 MnSO4 plus 8 H2O. So it is a balanced equation. Okay, that is, it specifies the oxidizing nature of potassium permanganate. It oxidizes ferrous sulfate to ferric sulfate, or I can say ferrous ion Fe2 plus 2 Fe3 plus, right? Yes, so it's a balanced equation. What they are asking, weight of KMnO4 required to completely oxidize 0.25 moles of ferrous sulfate. So what is the relation here from the balanced equation? 2:10, or I can say 1:5 is the relation, mole ratio. So we consider 2 into 158. What it is? It is the molecular mass of potassium permanganate. 2 into 158 as per balanced equation. 2 into 158 gram. Okay, in terms of mass we have to consider for KMnO4, and for FeSO4 we have to consider number of moles. So 2 into 158 gram of KMnO4 requires 10 moles of FeSO4 ferrous sulfate is the standard relation. But how much moles they are saying? 0.25 moles of ferrous sulfate. Say in reverse, if you consider the reverse relation, 10 mole of ferrous sulfate reacts with what? 2 into 158 gram of KMnO4 potassium permanganate. Now 0.25 mole of ferrous sulfate requires how much KMnO4? So KMnO4 required, so just we are cross multiplying 0.25 into 2 into 158 divided by 10. Okay, the same thing is done here. So 2 into 158 into 0.25 divided by 10. How much it is? 7.9 gram of KMnO4 is required. The weight of KMnO4 required means it is the 7.9 gram. Okay, yes. Next one, X gram of calcium carbonate was completely burnt in air. Okay, we don't know how much calcium carbonate is taken, but it was completely burnt in air. Okay, calcium carbonate, combustion of calcium carbonate means which equation to be recalled here? CaCO3, thermal decomposition of calcium carbonate gives rise to calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide is a equation. CaCO3 gives rise to CaO plus CO2. Now here x gram of calcium carbonate was completely burnt in air. The weight of solid residue formed is 28 grams. So out of which what happens here? Carbon dioxide is a gas which escapes. Solid residue means calcium oxide. How much? 28 gram of solid residue is obtained. What is the value of x they are asking? Okay, yes. Consider. First we look for the options. Say 44, 200, 150 and 50. So how much calcium oxide they are getting here? Solid residue, which means it is the quicklime, or I can say calcium oxide. It remains after decomposition. Carbon dioxide is a gas which escapes. So here 28 gram of calcium oxide is formed. Now again we have to consider the stoichiometric relation. So equation CaCO3 gives rise to CaO plus CO2. So calcium carbonate molecular mass 100 gram. Okay, molecular mass of calcium carbonate is 100 gram. So 100 gram of calcium carbonate produces calcium 40, oxygen 16. So 56 gram of calcium oxide, or else reverse. What is the reverse case I have to consider? Means 56 gram of calcium oxide is produced by how much calcium carbonate? 100 gram of calcium carbonate. This relation is considered here, right? 56 gram of calcium oxide is produced by 100 gram of calcium carbonate. Now how much calcium oxide is produced here? 28 gram. 28 gram of calcium oxide produced by how much calcium oxide? That is x. So x is equal to 28 into 100 divided by 56. So 28 ones are 28 twos are 2 ones are 250. So x is equal to how much? 50 grams. So what is the option? Fourth is correct. Okay. Yes, same thing is done here. So 100 into 28 divided by 56. So 50 gram of calcium carbonate will be there. It is subjected for combustion. So that we are going to get 28 gram of calcium oxide. Okay. Well, so what is the answer? Fourth. Option 4 is correct. Well, so with this I am going to conclude about the chapter 1, right? So please go through all the concept and refer the notes given in the group. Okay, thank you. Be safe.